Okay, so in the last session, we had seen up to these three mechanisms of action. Classification of disinfections based on consistency, spectrum of activity, and mechanism of action. Now, today we are going to see about classification based on the chemical composition. So, when we classify them based on their chemical structure, what is the chemical functional group or what is the chemical entity of that agent? According to that, we put them into these 9 categories. So, firstly, we have acids and alkalis, then halogens, then heavy metals, phenol and derivatives, alcohols, aldehydes, quaternary ammonium compounds, dyes, and then detergents and soaps. So, we will take up each of these in turn. So when we say strong acids and when we say acids and alkalis, if the acid and alkali is very strong, then it will kill the bacteria. If it is a weak acid, it will only inhibit the bacterial growth. So the stronger the acid or alkali, better, more stronger is the ability to act as a disinfectant. Now, when we say halogens, which ones do we mean? All of them, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine, are germicidal in nature. They can kill germs. But out of all these, commonly chlorine and iodine compounds are used. Bromine is not often used, nor fluorine, but chlorine and iodine are used. Then, when we talk of heavy metals, mostly compounds made up of copper, silver, and mercury. These are used as disinfectants and antiseptics. So they combine what they do. How do they act? They combine with the cellular protein and bring about coagulation of those proteins, and therefore they are able to act as germicidal agents. If we look at phenol and its derivatives, the oldest antiseptic which was used was phenol. It was mainly used by this Joseph Lister to sterilize surgical instruments. Now, what phenol does is it will cause cell membrane damage and therefore it kills the microorganisms. However, it can be toxic for the skin, so phenol is generally not used on human skin. Now, there are derivatives which have been prepared from phenol. They are compounds which are related to phenol, but they are having slightly difference in their structure. Like, for example, cresols. Now, this agent called Lysol, which nowadays we are using as a disinfectant on the floor, etc., that is an example of a cresol. Similarly, the compound called chlorhexidine, which is found in Savlon. This chlorhexidine is also a derivative of phenol. Then chloroxylenol, which is present in Dettol. And this is having the advantage that it is very less toxic and does not cause so much irritation. So all these compounds are actually derivatives of phenol. Nowadays, because these derivatives are safer and less toxic, they are preferred to be used as compared to using phenol. Then coming to alcohols. Alcohols, as we already know, either we use ethanol or we use isopropanol, isopropyl alcohol. So they are having very rapid action. So if you want quick action on a wound, for example, you can make use of alcohol for the antiseptic action. So generally it is found that if you're using ethanol, 60 to 70% should be used. If we use isopropanol, then 50 to 60% concentration is giving us the best results. And generally, if you compare, the higher alcohol is more stronger in its action as compared to the lower alcohols. Then coming to aldehydes, the main aldehyde which is used is formaldehyde. It can be used in solution form for sterilization of some instruments, but as we already noted in the previous class, this formaldehyde is mainly used for the purpose of fumigation, for sterilizing the air, and not so much as a disinfectant on the floor or anywhere else. Coming to the quaternary ammonium compounds, their advantage is that they are mainly used as disinfectants. They can be used for the skin, but they are mainly used on the floor, on the walls, because they have good action and they don't damage those areas also. The most common compounds which are used are cetrimide and benzalkonium chloride. Then coming to dyes, we know dyes are colored agents. So different types of dyes can be used, but basic dyes are generally more effective than acidic dyes. And out of all the dyes which are available, acridine and triphenylmethane dyes, these are the ones which are most commonly used in the for the purpose as a disinfectant. Then when we talk of detergents and soaps, they can be used for different purposes. We can use detergents and soaps as surfactants, surface active agents. We can use them as wetting agents. We can use them for emulsifiers also. Out of all these, the cationic ones, you can have anionic, cationic, non-ionic, and amphoteric. I think you are aware. Those which form anions, negatively charged ions, they are called anionic. Those which form positively charged ions are cationic. Those who do not form any such ions, they are non-ionic. And those which give rise to both cations and anions are amphoteric in nature. So out of all these categories of detergents and soaps, the cationic surfactants like cetrimide and benzalkonium chloride are the most important ones. Then sodium lauryl sulfate and other soaps, they are anionic. Now, what they have found is that if you prepare a soap by using saturated fatty acids, that will be more effective against gram-negative organisms. Whereas if you have a soap which is prepared using unsaturated fatty acids, then it will have better action against gram-positive organisms. Coming to non-ionic detergents, because they don't form any kind of ions, their antimicrobial activity is not so good. It is not significant enough, and they are not at all preferred to be used. Amphoteric compounds are used because they have properties of both anions as well as cations. So because of that, they are used quite often. So this is about detergents and soaps. Now we come to a little bit of understanding. We have to understand what are antiseptics. So whatever we saw so far was about mainly disinfectants. Antiseptics are, we know they are agents which are similar to disinfectants, but they are safe for use on living surfaces like the skin and the mucous membranes. Now there are different types of antiseptics which can be used, and they are acting by different mechanisms. So this compound called benzalkonium chloride, it interferes with the signaling within the cells, and because of that it causes disintegration of the cell membrane. Iodine compounds, they cause denaturation of important bacterial proteins. Alcohols, they denature and destroy the cell membranes. And soaps and detergents, they cause loss of integrity of the cell membranes. Here, I've just put it into a tabular format. So some common antiseptics which are used, what are their properties or uses and examples for those. So alcohol antiseptics, they can be used on medical instruments and tools. Then gels made of alcohol are used as hand sanitizers in hospitals. So isopropyl alcohol, methyl alcohol, and of course ethyl alcohol can all be used. Chlorhexidine antiseptics, they are mainly used for cleaning the skin and oral cavity. So if there is something to be done in the mouth also, we can use them. And they can be directly applied on the wounds, provided the skin is not broken. And they are very important. Because I said they are used in the oral cavity, they can be used in mouthwashes. The example for this, chlorhexidine mouthwash. Then iodophore antiseptics, they are iodine containing compounds. They can be applied to mucous membranes to unbroken skin for pre-operative procedures. Even chlorhexidine antiseptics and iodophore antiseptics, we can use them before surgical procedures. And the common example is betadine. Then coming to peroxygen antiseptics, these are the ones which release nascent oxygen. So hydrogen peroxide is an example. It can be used to clean wounds and to disinfect skin at a slightly different concentration. It can be used for gargles and mouthwashes. If somebody is having a mouth infection, we can use it as a gargle. Phenol derivatives, these kind of antiseptics, they are mainly used in medicated soap and scrubs. A very low concentration of a phenol derivative may be present in throat lozenges. Like if somebody is having sore throat or itchy sensation in the throat and they take these lozenges, then that may contain some derivative of phenol in a very mild diluted form. So chloroxylenol, hexachlorophene, 4-hexyl resorcinol, all these are examples of phenol derivatives. Then quaternary ammonium compounds, these kinds like benzalkonium chloride, dodecyl dimethyl ammonium chloride, they are used mainly as preservative and eye drops, but they can also be used before surgery on the skin. If we look at what are the properties of an ideal antiseptic, they are same as properties which are required for an ideal disinfectant. But there is one extra point which is mentioned first on this slide, that the antiseptic should not damage living tissues with which they come into contact. This is the most important requirement for an ideal antiseptic. All the others, broad spectrum of action, non-toxic, non-corrosive, all these other things that are mentioned here, they are common for disinfectants as well as antiseptics. But the fact that they should not damage living tissues is very important for antiseptics, because as you know, we have already been telling repeatedly, antiseptics are used on living tissues, so they should not cause damage there. Now coming to some common antiseptic and disinfectant profiles. So alcohol, the main thing about alcohol is that it is having rapid action, okay, but all the others are its disadvantages. No residual effect. Residual effect means that if I apply an antiseptic on the skin, does it retain its activity for a few hours after that? So that is called as residual effect. Now, if I'm applying any antiseptic before surgery, it is good if it has residual effect. So alcohol does not have that. The thing with alcohol is, the biggest thing with alcohol is that it is having it is having this rapid action. So if you have a situation where you need very quick action, then we can use alcohol. But if we have any other requirement, like all the others that are mentioned here, they are all the disadvantages. So alcohol does not have residual effect. It gets inactivated by organic matter. It is irritating on broken skin. It is not able to kill spores, and it is highly flammable. So that is why, where we want rapid action and it is not broken skin, we can make use of alcohol 70%. Then coming to chlorhexidine, it has good residual activity. It is strong action against gram-positive organisms, moderate action against gram-negative organisms. And it gets reduced by organic matter, so it's not very effective if there is organic matter on the wound area. And it is not sporicidal also. Coming to povidone iodine, it has broad spectrum of activity, so it can act over a wide range of organisms. Then, although there is organic matter, it will retain some of its activity, but it may cause staining of the skin. It may cause some irritation, and the onset of action, the time taken for the antiseptic to start acting and killing the organisms, that will be longer. It is a little slow in action, so it takes a longer time for the effect to set in. Coming to quaternary ammonium compounds, they are good for gram positive organisms. They don't have much gram negative activity. They are inactivated by soaps. They are mild on the skin. That's why if you have a very superficial wound and you have nothing else available, we can make use of quaternary ammonium compounds. Now, all of these, they are not sporicidal. It's not mentioned here for the povidone iodine, but even for that, they are not sporicidal. That means these disinfectants, these antiseptics, they are not able to kill spores in any of the situations. So that is what was left over in the syllabus. So please pay attention to all these factors, study the things which have been told and the notes which have been given to you, and we'll see what we can do about the activities in the next class. Thank you very much.